Welcome to the Inside Podcast with Mike and Scotty, bringing that sexy swagger to the BDL airwaves. We are back again, and we are happy to be here. A great show planned today. I think going to take a look at some league-altering trades that have happened here over the last few days in the BDL. Some really wicked news there as it pertains specifically to, I think, one of what previously was one of the stronger contenders for a BDL championship this year, the Amish Brotherhood. That is no longer the case with that club. They have sold out yet again. We're going to talk about that and in the longer segment of our show today. Matt, the Carolina Cardinals, former BDL champion and draft prospect expert, joins the show to discuss the 2021 BDL Draft. So buckle up. It's a good show. You're going to enjoy it. But first, it's time again to rock. Hello, BDL. Once again, you are inside with Mike and Scotty. Mike, my brother, how are you?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you?
I am starting to warm up. We're getting some mid-60s days here in good old VA, and
Very good.
I'm looking forward to sunshine soon. Real, actual sunshine, not fake sunshine.
That's all right. The same up here. Things are starting to melt away now, so we should be in spring weather pretty soon.
Cool. Hey guys, just in a few moments, we are going to dive deep into a draft conversation with Matt of the Cardinals. Looking forward to that. It's really cool. You'll enjoy it. But yeah, first we've had a couple really newsy kind of headline trades in the BDL over the last few days, last week or so. Mike, and I guess we'll just lead off with one that you were involved with there with the Boston Double Downs and the Rockland Rockets. So
that trade kind of came out of nowhere, Scotty. Honestly, I had made an offer on one of Joe's guys, specifically on Mr. Arenado. I'd made an offer on that, and Joe was taking his usual sweet ass time going through offers to figure out what he was going to do. And it was like lunch one day, and I got an offer from Kevin. It's basically Springer for Kirilloff and Patino, who's a pitcher that I got back from you in our last trade. And it was just one of these things with a comment like, I'm thinking of moving Springer. Does this make sense for you? And again, this wasn't a guy that I'd actively targeted just because I didn't think there'd be any interest in Kevin moving him. And I looked at the trade and thought about it. And this actually makes a lot of sense. And Kevin and I historically are really good on trade value. When we make trades, they usually go through really quickly. When I make him offers, it's usually one counter and done, and it's the same way the other way around. We both have a pretty good feel for what guys are valued. We don't make low ball offers to each other, so trades tend to get done really quickly. And I sat on his offer for maybe a half hour. I actually bounced it off Steven because we just happened to be talking because we are co-workers. And I'm like, this makes a lot of sense. So the first thing I did is pulled back the offer I made Joe because it wouldn't have made sense to get both of the guys really, and I made that one. And I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's going to work out really well for Kevin. I really like Alex Kirilloff. He's one of those few prospects that I actually held for a long time. As you know from my history, that does not happen a lot.
Right.
And he had just made his debut in the playoffs last year, and it looks like he's going to be a starter for them come the beginning of the season. As a talent, I really like him, but it was really hard to not take George Springer, particularly with the Jays probably not playing in Toronto this year. It looks like they're going to be playing in a minor league park again for at least most of the year, and I can only imagine what his number is going to look like in that lineup playing in a small ballpark. So it was a trade I had to make.
Yeah, and I know it fits kind of where you are right now and what you needed to do for this season. I think it was a good value trade. I really, long range. I really like, and this is not to say I mean, if you've got to have an opportunity to acquire a player like George Springer and at his still in the relative prime of his career, 31 years old, I believe. Most of the time you have to do it. I think projecting out Kevin also made out really well.
He really
I
did.
like both of those players. You're welcome on Patino.
Yep.
I
Thanks,
like
buddy.
both of those players really well, and I think he's going to be very happy with the trajectory of that as time moves on. So,
Yeah, I think so.
uh, good swap for both sides.
I thought so.
On the flip side of that, we have to ask the question, as we tend to do in this league every 3 or 4 seasons. Um, so, Joe,
Yeah, it's
you're out again.
this is the thing I don't understand about Joe. Like Joe made the final last year, right? Did I not play him in the finals? I
I
thought I
think you
did,
did.
right? Like
Yes, you did.
I've never seen someone build for so long, get almost to the mountaintop, and then decide to jump off the mountain as much as Joe does. And like and again on paper this trade is pretty reasonable. Like as far as valuation goes, I get the value here. Would I have done it? No. But he got back a lot of really good prospects and a couple of draft picks as well.
the yes,
I just don't understand the move, as in why are you selling these guys now?
the value I think is largely fine.
Yeah,
It doesn't
it's
it
an
doesn't
offensive
look.
package. Let's put it that way.
No,
It's
no, it's sort of similar to a pack. I would probably would have broken up the major league pieces a little more.
yeah,
Maybe turn that into 2 trades or so instead of one large trade.
yeah.
Um, but just value wise, it kind of resembles something I might have done 7 or 8 years ago during one of my rebuilds. But I don't know. I think he was early to pull the trigger on this. I think the Amish Brotherhood stood to still compete for a championship for at least a short amount of time, another season or two without a whole lot of retooling.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I think he might have pulled the trigger too soon on that.
Yeah, I think he might have. And but again, it's classic Joe. It's funny because when he put these guys on the block, I was talking to Steven about this, and because I'm pretty sure he made an offer on them as well. And he's like, at that point, I don't think he kind of understood why make the move. And my response is, that's just Joe. This is just what he does.
Yeah.
Every 3 or 4 years, he gets bored with his roster, and he decides it's time to sell these guys off. Now, granted, the counterpoint could be that Trevor Bauer's value will never be higher than it is right now.
That's
I
true.
could certainly make that argument. This is a guy
True.
who historically has been a 4 ERA guy most years, coming off a year where he looked like, geez, he was basically Pedro Martinez last year. And the
Yeah.
odds of him doing that again are probably not really good. So I get why you would want to move him. And perhaps there's fear of Arenado leaving Colorado. So the motivation of moving those 2 guys, I kind of understand it. I don't get moving them for an all prospect package of guys that aren't going to help you for a long time. That's what I
Hmm.
don't get. As
Well, that's
opposed to
that's
what Kevin did with Springer, for instance, where he traded off one of his stars, but he got 2 guys that are both high ranking prospects that are both going to be one that will start, for the Twins in a really good lineup this year, and Pitino that's probably going to start, with Tampa Bay this year. Like it just seems like a strange move to move those 2 stars for a bunch of lottery tickets that you're not going to cash in on for a number of years.
hmm let's sort of recap this trade because it's a large trade.
It
Let's
is.
recap it in a little more detail because we can't overlook the impact here on the other club involved, the Crawford Cramps.
Mm.
But the Amish Brotherhood sent Nolan
Arenado.
Arenado, thank you,
Arenado. He's
Trevor
Italian.
Bauer, Kyle Kyle Schwarber, 3 good pieces. And in return, the Cramps sent Zach Fiend, Riley Green, is it Asa Lacey,
I think so.
Nick Gonzalez, and this reliever who sounds like who could have grown up down the road from me here in the mountains of Virginia, Shane McClanahan. Where did he go to college?
I'm not sure.
Or if did he may not have gone to college, but
I'm not sure. I was gonna make a
but
southern joke, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm a nice guy.
yeah, well you can because that is a very
He is
we have
23, and he went to the University of South Florida.
okay, well not nearby, but still
Yeah,
southern.
yeah.
But yeah, that's a very my neck of the woods kind of name. Anyway, and there were picks involved. What
Two
two
first
additional
rounders.
first
Yeah,
rounders?
two
Yeah,
first
I think
rounders.
so.
Grants
So
first, and
quite
and the
quite
elementary.
a substantial package.
Yeah.
Really, I would say I'm trying to think of a bigger trade, more impactful trade that we have seen in the last 12 months. Nothing is really coming to mind.
No,
Um, I don't think so, but certainly vaults the Crawford Cramps into, at the very least, the conversation in the playoffs this year to potentially be positioned to compete for a championship.
definitely.
I would have to do a little more of a study on the construction of that roster to uh, really have a strong opinion on that and their standing now. But certainly when you inject that kind of major league ready talent onto your roster, and no matter the circumstances, it changes the complexion not only of your club but your division immediately. So that's yeah, some league shifting. I think maneuvering going on here, and it's been a very active late winter period in the BDL so far, and I don't think that we are. I don't think that we're done. The Generals have been active as well. Of course, the Rockets have, as the Rockets always are. But just looking up and down the trade sheet, we've seen a lot of action.
NorCal made a couple of big moves in there.
Yeah,
The Carolina, I think Carolina made a move. Like yeah, it's
the Beers have made some substantial moves as
yes,
well.
they did. Yes, they did. And the
Yeah,
Bears, I think, if not the favorites, were certainly up in the top two or three. And I think this is kind of the Cramps' answer to that. This is them saying, don't forget about us down here in
yeah,
Crawford. And
right.
what's really interesting about that trade is uh, talking. We had a conversation with Brian a couple of weeks back, and I remember asking him specifically about his old Cramps teams always had an ace or two at the top of the lineup. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and beyond that, so he was basically heavy closer, a couple of aces, and then for 5 or 6 other starters that were fine. And one of the holes in this team, his current roster was there wasn't that top end starting pitcher, and I think he certainly filled that hole. Which also tells me I got to stop giving guys ideas. This is horrible. Uh, but if you look at his lineup right now, he has the third, the fourth, and the fifth ranked player on CBS. Tatis, Trout, and
that
Soto are 3, 4, 5. So
that's nuts.
it's pretty
That's
good.
nuts.
It's pretty
Yeah,
good.
sure is, sure is.
Yeah.
No surprise though. It's Crawford.
Yeah.
They're up and down, but they're always up quicker than you expect. So
Yeah.
uh, anyway, yeah. So guys, we're about to dive into some 2021 BDL draft discussion, analyze the winners, losers, value picks. Take a little bit of a historical look too at some prior years and just poke fun and those sorts of things. So it was a good time with Matt of the Cardinals on the show today, and we're going to throw it to Matt now. right, guys, welcome to our draft review show. We brought on the heavy-hitting expert for drafting, for prospects, and for all that jazz in the BDL, Mr. Matt of the Carolina Cardinals. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Scotty. It's truly an honor to guest on the BDL's #1 podcast.
That it is.
Have we released the ratings yet, Mike?
I don't think we have. Like, the numbers came in so high that we really don't want to brag. Make all the other podcasts on this in our league feel bad. So
I think through the first 3 episodes, we're averaging a whopping 6 viewers.
That's pretty big. Now, considering there's been 3 people on each of those shows, we probably listened to it, so we're like at 3 views. This is not good. But now that we have Matt, we have a true star on this show.
True star.
I think we might get to 7. We might get to 7.
Yeah.
Let's see. We are just missing. If we would have brought on the 2018 champion. My gosh, who was that?
I don't
Chris.
know. Was it Chris?
Chris. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's Chris. Yeah.
The forgettable beers. Yes, if we would have brought Chris on,
we try to forget about that.
if we would have the last 4 champions on this show. We should have thought about that a little harder. But
We probably should have. Well, that's all right.
Oh well. Yeah, but okay, we don't need to hear from Chris.
No, we really don't.
But no, Matt, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Of course, we're fortunate to have such a great competitor such as yourself in the BDL, someone as knowledgeable with prospects top to bottom in minor league baseball as you are. So we're really excited to dig into this draft.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Scotty. Yeah, it's a great group in this league.
I was really impressed, and I think we talked, Mike, a little bit about this on the last show. How we accidentally did away with the draft clock this year, and it worked swimmingly. I mean, it was actually a really pleasant draft. No one took 24, 36 hours to make a pick, even after we got going, and I thought it was a good draft.
Yeah. Hopefully we can keep to this in future years and it won't be necessary.
Hopefully. We have a good group of guys now, but on to the headline of the show. So just general overall draft impressions. Matt, maybe just kick things off by giving us your impression of what the overall value of this draft was in baseball, top to bottom. How do you feel this ranks, this draft class, among, say, the last 10 years or so of drafts?
Boy, this might be the most mysterious one of these drafts we'll ever have, just based on the lack of not only pro data, but meaningful amateur data. The season was canceled for the college players before they even got to conference play. So there's really, you're picking blind or you're picking more just based off of the scouting and tools information more so than ever before. So this could take a while to shake out, I think, even more so than a typical draft of amateurs. Yeah,
I think you're right. And I saw, of course, the headline. I guess that was in the last couple of days or so. Heck, it might have been a Baseball America tweet for all I know. That AAA, I guess, is delaying the start of the 2021 season at least a month. Did I understand that right?
Yep. I think, it's the big issue is you have these players who are going to be in AAA and then going into big league clubhouses, so that they have this issue with containing virus in that reality. So that's one of the main reasons.
Right.
Hey, Matt,
yeah.
Are teams more likely to keep their top prospects up in taxi squads for that reason, just so they can get more exposure to big league coaching, do you think?
Presumably, yes. I think we're seeing that a little bit with more prospects in big league camp just in general. So I would say yes.
Well, just in terms of the impact to the BDL this year, let's look specifically at this draft. I guess let's just go around the room just to get things started and talk a little bit about which team in the BDL or teams had the best overall draft. I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer to kind of kick things off. Um, you know, I kind of feel like usually, depending on placement in the draft. I know looking back, you know, for me personally for the Generals, I am normally an all in or all out guy in fantasy when it comes to the prospect draft. If I am competing for a playoff spot, making a hard title run, typically I am sold out of that draft. I have moved at least my first, second, and third round picks. Um, for value at the major league level to fill holes in my squad, shore up weaknesses and those things. But if I'm in a rebuilding state or a reloading state, you can look back, Mike. What was it, Mike? Maybe the 2012 draft. This one comes to mind. I think maybe I had 7 or 8 first round picks,
Yeah, that
something like
sounds
that.
right. I want to say that was 12, but I can quickly look that up. But I remember,
Yeah.
yeah, it was 12. You had picks 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Wow.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
How'd you do in retrospect?
Pick 1 was Anthony Rendon. Pick 2 was Trevor Bauer. Pick 4 was Dylan Bundy, then Archie Bradley, Bubba Starling, and Josh Bell. So basically, he started off great, and then he kind of fell off a cliff. Gary Cole
Are
was
Ah,
any of are those
the
players
elusive
still
Bubba
generals?
Starling.
yeah.
Are those players still generals, by the way? Any of those guys?
They see. I still have.
In spirit,
Did you say that was? Did you say Rendon, Mike?
Rendon, yeah, Bauer was 2, then Bundy, Bradley, Starling, Bell were your picks.
Yeah. So of course, I have Rendon. I have rostered him for I guess maybe 3 or 4 seasons now. All of those prospects I moved at one point, and honestly, a lot of them I don't think it took too long. It might have been a few months.
Yeah.
but yeah, Rendon came back to the club. Mike, that might have been from you.
Uh,
I don't
I
remember.
think so. I don't. I make so many trades that it's kind of hard to keep
Yeah,
track.
yeah, but yeah, and I might have one other draft like that. I think in the history of the Generals drafts. But if I'm rebuilding, I'm sort of all in that way, and if I'm not, it's the opposite. But anyway, I'm very long-winded point here. Generally speaking, as long as your placement is strategic, you are at least weighted toward the top end of the draft. I think it's hard to argue against that. Those who stack picks and kind of spread that risk around a little bit kind of usually come out better. Come out on the better end. And this is a very small, obviously, slice of context. Looking back just specifically at that 2012 draft for the Generals, but that piece of that strategy, in a small part, eventually led to 2 titles for the Generals. So, um, I think it is worthwhile to look at those things. So when I look at this specific draft, I see, that club. That club is probably the Crawford Cramps.
Yep.
And I don't know how. It's pretty difficult to me to argue against that line of thinking. The Killer Cars, they had multiple picks in round one. I think the Damage did as well, although they were lower. Um, but so for me personally, I think I would probably lean toward the Cramps for that answer.
Yeah, for me, the Amish stand out. He had the first and the 15th pick and was able to get the top draft prospect and the top international prospect. The draft prospect being Spencer Torkelson from Joe's favorite college program, and the second being Christian Hernandez, who I believe is a Venezuelan shortstop, who Baseball America views as having the highest ceiling in this international free agent class. So I think when you start your draft with those two, and then you meld in, we talked about the Cramps draft, but a lot of those guys now became Amish draftees via the recent trade that we saw. So I, I
True.
believe Joe added Zach Bean, Asa Lacey, and Nick Gonzalez in that trade.
Yeah, I think he got all three of those guys. He got picks 4, 5, and 6. So
Yeah. So
he
you add
definitely had the
that.
best draft since he had both of the best drafts.
Yeah, you had 1, 4, 5, 6, and 15. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd agree with Scotty that when you have pick 4, 5, and 6, like the odds of you hitting on one or two of those guys is pretty good. Like we even pick one if we go back in time through BDL history. Like everyone thinks pick one is a surefire thing. And again, if
Oh
it's
no.
if
Yeah.
it's if it's Bryce Harper, it is. But I'm sure if I click back into prior drafts and I just pick random year, there's going to be situation after situation where pick one is not the guy that would be pick one
Yeah.
if we redrafted. So
Yeah.
that happens
I
a
mean,
lot.
I wouldn't mind to go down through a few of those just out of sheer curiosity. Maybe we'll have time to do that as we're clicking along in the draft or in this show here. Um, Mike. But yeah, I think that's kind of what you said. You hits on a key. There is that this is such a total crapshoot, and we can lean on data and look at those scouting reports and make the best judgment that we can. But even the most toolsy of prospects, they're never sure things. No one is a sure thing, and some rise from out of nowhere. You have your Mike Trouts. So I don't know. From my point of view, I think the more you can spread that risk around in what you are investing in when it comes to the draft, you're more than likely to hit on something.
Mhm.
If you are all in on that number one or number two pick, and you have invested uh, 100 cents of 100 cents into that pick, and that is what you're kind of hinging your next your next 5-year plan on. um I don't know, that's really foolhardy to me.
Mhm.
Yeah, you did mention the damage in passing. I think this is also a draft class that stands out to me by virtue of those first round picks. When you're adding a power high school hitter like Austin Hendrick, a standout college hitter like Austin Wells, I think those are two very wise picks where they were taken. Then you throw on top of that, you have Pete Crow Armstrong, you have Nick York, a good pure hitter. Bobby Miller is kind of more of a pop up arm, but he has the potential to deliver rotation value. You just look at how the Dodgers' track record in the first round. I mean, they pick in the back of the first round every year, and they're coming up with major league regulars. So I like that pick. And of course, Ha-Sung Kim, the Korean shortstop, who's 25, good power, plays up the middle. I like that pick as well.
Here's a neat little connection. The Amish also had the number one overall pick, and I don't have the number in front of me here to tell you if this was how many times they have had the number one pick, but they did have the number one pick also in 2009. That choice was Pedro Alvarez, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that
Hmm.
one didn't work out as well. Was that the year that
Hey.
actually the number one pick expired and he picked second? I remember we had it even at
Mm,
home.
Wow.
I think it was
oh my gosh, you're right.
right
Yes, I'm looking at that now. No, I am wrong. That was the number. He had the number two pick,
because
and
I
the
remember him being so excited about I got the number one pick now, and
mm-hmm.
him going on about Pedro Alvarez like this guy's because was going to be the next Miggy Cabrera. Suffice it to say that didn't work out as planned. Uh,
That shifted the entire draft.
yeah,
Oh well, suffice to say, that owner is no longer in our midst.
yeah.
But
I got to hear more
fun.
about that. That could be its own podcast, I guess.
Yeah,
And the following year, the number one overall pick, Crawford Cramps, Steven Strasburg,
that one worked out a little better.
worked
That'll
out
do.
okay.
That'll do.
Worked out okay. Maybe we'll pepper a few more of those in along the way here. But any more thoughts on overall best team draft?
Yeah, there was a couple other drafts I liked. I don't put them in the same orbit as these other ones, but the Vipers I thought did really well. It's going with pitchers is risky, but I think the pitchers that the Vipers identified are among my favorites. I mean, Max Meyer and Reed Detmers in particular, I think are both talented
Mm-hmm.
and fast risers. So I think that's what you're really shooting for when you're taking a pitcher, in my opinion. And Slade Ciccone and Jared Schuster were taken later. I think those are reasonable picks. I mean, you have to weigh that relative to who else was available. I don't actually have that up right now, but I do like those guys just in a vacuum. And I like the Chicks draft as well. Just a good variety of position targets, including Heston Kjerstad, Ed Howard, Wilman Diaz, Jordan Westberg. Those are good darts to throw. You know, it doesn't have the certainty, the perceived certainty of some of these other groups, but I like the direction.
Well, I know from as often as I heard from Zach of the Chicks throughout the draft, he is very happy with his draft, for sure.
Good. Yeah.
Has anyone come out of a draft unhappy with their picks though?
Probably at some point, Joe.
That is the thing. Is like you leave the draft. Oh, look at all these players I got. I got so much better. But so did everybody else.
Yeah.
Moving along here, I'm sorry, kind of doing a little historical flashback as we're moving along, but it's kind of fun. This was a remarkable draft, 2010. Again, back-to-back years. The Crawford Krantz had
Strasburg
the
and
number one
Trout.
overall pick. Bryce Harper. That was the year Bryce Harper went number one overall, 2011. This might be a record. The Generals had 8 first-round draft picks in the 2011 draft. 8. Crazy. Starting with the number 3, 3, 4, and 5. And that would be Manny Machado. That one worked out.
Zach Cox not as well.
Zach Cox, not as well. Chris Sale. Okay, Chris Sale.
Yeah.
Can live with that one, right? Moving on down, Zach Lee.
Man, he gets ugly fast. Man.
AJ Cole.
Yep.
Man.
Stetson Ali. And Josh Sale.
Anthony Renato. Oh my.
Anthony Renato.
Well, the key thing is all those guys got paid in the draft, but that was a weaker draft, MLB draft. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But this, but again, this kind of just speaks to the whole coin toss element of this draft. Like, I'm sure if you would have talked to Scotty the day after that draft, he would have just told you how excited he was about each and every one of these guys. And, when you look back now and you see, AJ Cole is what, he was with the Jays yesterday, last year's a middle reliever. I don't know where he is now. Stetson Ali. Then he convert to a hitter because he couldn't pitch. If I'm
Yeah,
sure.
that's correct.
Josh Sale's bagging groceries somewhere right now, I think.
Do you remember Josh Saleh was the guy who threw change at the stripper? Yeah.
Change?
Yeah.
What the hell kind of signing bonus did he get?
He was. Yeah, look, Google his name. Seriously, he's got some makeup. Wow. He's got some makeup issues.
Makeup issues, yeah. You ain't kidding.
And he was like from a bodybuilding family, so he was kind of
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, that is the danger. Like you get fixated on the bonuses and think that it's a straight path to the majors, but as we've illustrated, not always the case.
Well, moving right along, then, Matt, why don't you maybe take us through, if you don't mind, your particular view here on the best value picks per round, starting with round 1 going to round 5.
Okay. Yeah, I just highlighted a player in each round here who, quote unquote, fell in the draft. So in the first round at 13 overall, the Double Downs took Robert Hassel, the high school outfielder from Tennessee. I really like him. I think there's a good chance of getting batting average and staying in center field. Power might develop. He's a little thin. There's some questions on the power, but I think overall where he got him, that's a gamble I would take. Round 2, I really liked the second pick in the round by the Lions, Tyler Soderstrom, catcher from NorCal. I think he's going to move off catcher, but I think the bat is definitely going to carry him to the major leagues. I would think something like Will Myers was drafted as a catcher and then moved off the position, became an impact corner player. I think Soderstrom is cut from that same cloth. In round 3, I would look at a couple of SEC pitchers. One of them is my guy, JT Ginn, at 36 overall. The Chicks also had Cole Wilcox out of Georgia at 43. I think if you're looking for upside, circa pick 40, I like those picks there. You're past the point of really you're not as concerned about pitcher risk at this point because it's just a third round pick. So I like those two. Round four, a couple I would highlight here would be the damage at 52 overall. Got Nick York, a very unusual MLB first rounder as a right-handed hitting high school second baseman. That happens so rare that I don't think I could find an example of that happening previously. But his bat's real. He can hit for average. Everything else is kind of to be determined, but that's a good starting point, a good building block. And pick 59, Jordan Westberg, a Mississippi State shortstop. Hit well in the Cape with wood. Got some power, some speed. The questions you would typically have associated with a pick this low are there, but I think the tools. I do like the tools there, so I like him. Then it's kind of a prospect wasteland in the 5th round, so I would look at I like your pick, Scotty, of Matt Moore at 78. Just a good dart throw coming back from Japan, and the Baybeers at 74. Yimi Garcia is a worthwhile dart to throw at a closer at some saves, but this is the prospect wasteland, so whatever.
Well, and that's typically what the 5th round normally becomes in our draft is sort of those dice rolls, dice roll picks, and I think your most of your value, your good value comes in rounds 1 through 3 every year, and you've got some deeper picks in round 4 where really the draft can be won or lost for different clubs, I think. But those round 5 picks, sometimes they pay off.
Yep.
Other
You
times
remember where Mike Trout got drafted, Scotty?
in our draft.
Yeah,
I don't.
round 5.
What?
Wow.
Yep. And
Are you serious?
and he was immediately traded for, and I could be wrong on this, but I thought it was Tim Wakefield.
Let's see. He was traded. He was traded to the Bulldogs, correct?
I think I can't remember that, but I think, geez, I want to say it was the Epidemic, which is Matt's current team, is it not? that
Traded away?
That traded him like a couple days later. I want to say it was for Tim Wakefield. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's what it was.
Wow.
Tim Wakefield, and I wish we had Brent on to discuss this because he has personal he has personal oops stories in this regard. But Tim Wakefield has been included in some of the worst trades in BDL history.
Mm-hmm.
The worst trades. We need to do a deep dive on that for one show, Mike, because it's comical. But no, I didn't realize that Trout was traded that quickly after being drafted.
I believe it was right after the draft. I'm trying to look it up now, but this is going back a while.
Okay, well, maybe we'll find.
We
that
can
eventually.
move on to the next topic though, and I shall bring it up.
Sure. Yeah, we'll
need a BDL draft database is what we need here.
We used to have one. Yeah, we used to have one.
So kind of along that, or the other side of that coin, rather, Matt. Head scratchers. What are the biggest head scratchers in this draft that you see?
I think there's so much information out there now to help guide managers, dynasty managers in this process. It's hard to make like such a off the wall pick that it would be a bad, quote unquote consensus pick.
In the past, that tended to be Joe. Joe used to draft a bunch of 16-year-old guys no one had ever heard of, but that's changed in the past. I don't know, 4 or 5 years. There's a lot more focus on the international guys. Where in the past, that was kind of Joe's thing, where he would draft a bunch of 16-year-olds. They'd all flame out, and he'd drop them a year later. And then 5 years after that, someone would pick up one of those guys as a free agent, and he would turn into a star.
That's a great point. I think
that's one of the problems with, like, if you're an MLB team and you're signing some 16-year-old kid, you can keep him in your organization for all those years. We don't have a limitless minor league, despite Johnny's hope for that one day. And because of that, like when you're drafting a kid at 16, you're not going to see stats, for 2 or 3 years on those guys half the time, and it's really hard to hold on to these
Yep.
guys for that many years when you literally have no information because you're going to fall in love with some other 16-year-old guy that just got signed the next year, and you're probably going to drop the guy that you picked 12 months earlier.
Yeah. The way I like to think about it this way, like a major league organization has 150 minor league roster spots, give or take. We have
Yep.
20. We
Yep.
have 20. You know, you have to
Yep.
choose wisely.
Don't
Um,
give Johnny any ideas about going to 150, by the way. I'm
okay.
just trying to find that Mike Trout thing now. When was he drafted, anyways?
Oh
What do you remember?
nine.
Oh, 09.
Yeah, that '09 draft is rich because you have
Yeah.
Strasburg up top, Trout at the back of the round,
I
and
just want to confirm
Goldschmidt.
if my original
Goldschmidt is,
thought is right.
and Paul Goldschmidt was later in that draft, so he probably wasn't even drafted in the BDL.
Let me see if I can find. I want to say it was round 5. Let's see if I'm right.
And that shocks me because Trout not only was a first rounder, but he hit and he dominated the AZL. I think he hit near 400.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find. I remember he was a late pick. Uh, so he was in the 2009 MLB draft, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would put him in our 2010 draft. And there
Mm-hmm.
were 5 rounds in that draft. Let's see if my memory is right. It would be sick if it is. Yep, Baltimore Epidemic picked him round 5, in between Luis Valbuena and Rich Hill. So
Rich Hill. Wow,
yeah,
that before
the
Rich Hill
guys
was
that went
good.
the guys that went before him, Johnny picked Mickey Story, Ryan Strebe, Blake Hawksworth, John Eli. I selected Slate Heathcott 4 picks before Mike Trout.
Wow.
So
Who?
Slade Heathcott of the Yankees. In hindsight, I like that one back. Uh, so this was January 2010.
And,
I want to see if I can find that trade.
and this reflects the amount of information that's out there now versus then. It's exploded.
Okay, Matt. What other insights can you give us about this draft class?
Yeah, I think Mike raised a good point about evaluating international players. As the information has become more prevalent in cyberspace, everybody seems to know more about these guys and desire drafting these guys more and more. To the point where there's really no values anymore. You can't get a good value on a 16-year-old in one of these drafts anymore. And I contrast that with my first draft in this league was 2018. And I drafted Wander Franco high in the second round. And at the time, I was thinking, did I overdraft him? I mean, nobody else is taking any of these international free agents. Like, am I wrong with this evaluation? But
You were
then
way off
like
on that one, Matt. You were way
then
off.
then the following season I traded Franco for Mike Clevenger, and since then, yeah, these guys have been shoved up the board. You know, your Marco Lucianos and those types of players. I mean, you don't get values on these guys anymore in any league in any format.
Well, Mike, any other overall impressions from you? How did you like your draft?
Well, to be honest, my draft was really one guy. I picked 2 based on a trade I made the middle of last season. I was kind of hoping to find a way to get near the top of the draft, and that worked out really well. I got Austin Martin of the Jays,
Right.
who people just seem so in love with. And I never get any of the Jays prospects. I'm still kicking myself for not drafting Vladdy back in the day. So, to have an opportunity to get one of my own guys is kind of nice. The reports on him are really good with the bat. They're still not sure where he's going to play defensively. I'm sure Matt probably has a better feel for that. It seems like the outfield is probably in his future. I would like for him to stay in the infield. Perhaps Matt's got some perspective on that, but that seems to be where he's going to land. Matt, you have a thought on that?
Yeah, the Blue Jays are making an effort to develop him at shortstop this spring. Um, I guess the hesitation I would have there is that he played center field for his college team, and there's the the issue that comes up from time to time with scouts is throwing accuracy. So when you add those things together, plus the strong makeup of the Blue Jays infield group right now,
Yeah,
to me, I would say center field is probably a best case.
yeah. How long do you think before he's in the majors if he's an outfielder, as opposed to if he's a shortstop?
I think they would worry about developing his bat, and then just before calling him up, they would worry about the position. So I would say early 2023 or
Okay,
2022 is probably a distinct possibility
very good.
if he hits.
Well, Matt, again, we appreciate you joining us. But before we let you go, so your club, the Cardinals, coming off, of course, BDL championship just 2 seasons back now. How do you think that you're positioned for 2021?
Oh, pretty well. I mean, I'm trying to safeguard against some of the irregularities of last year, where the pitchers throw 50 innings. So it's going to be a real challenge this year, I think, to get the desired pitching results based on the strange year we're coming off of.
Right.
But overall, I mean, if Jordan Alvarez stays healthy, it should be okay.
Well, Matt, we appreciate you joining us.
Oh, Scotty, one more thing. We always ask our
Yes,
guests the same question at the end of every interview.
you're right.
A BDL
You're right.
finals pick.
Finals pick.
We need
Well,
Yeah.
your championship prediction.
What you got?
well, whoever it is, it's going to come from the East. It's going to be
Yeah, you're right about that.
it's going to be Carolina, Rockland,
No,
or NorCal.
no, no. The East has always been so strong in the BDL. The Generals, of course, used to compete in the old East, along with the Bulldogs and the Berserkers, and um, it was dynamite from nearly from top to bottom most years then too, and nothing really has changed even after we sort of realigned the clubs in the league and kind of shifted things around several years back. And I don't know what it is about the East. It is always just really kind of the cream of the crop.
I'm cursed. That's what it is, Scott. It's more
It-
complicated than that.
Isn't it? It might be something like the old AL East, where it was, the Yankees and Red Sox were always trying to outgun each other, and then the other teams in the division felt like they had to step it up as well, just because of that dynamic.
Maybe, maybe, yeah, yeah. I sort of miss being in the East.
I'll trade with you.
I can trade spot. Yeah, I was about to say I can trade spot
Yeah.
if you want.
Only, only in name. I'll take my automatic playoff berth. Thank you very much.
Oh,
I
I
heard the
like
Chiefs are going to be contenders this year. I heard that from somebody. Can't remember who that was.
and I like the direction Gray's View is headed in. I like, Chris always makes good moves with Malibu. I think they'll be good. I don't know the Pacific Coast teams quite as well. I don't know, maybe you guys have a better handle on them.
Yeah,
No
well,
one cares.
I think the Cramps right now have to be kind of co-favorites on that end of the bracket after that trade, right?
Now, Mike, you realize that
Mhm.
we get to take credit for the fact that the Cramps are now a contender in the BDL
Yeah,
because
we talk to him
on,
and he instantly becomes good. That's not a
on,
coincidence.
well, not a, but on the very last show, one of our direct questions was, "Why haven't you won a title in 6 years?"
Yep.
And then, boom. So,
Yeah. Yes. So perhaps we should end this interview with asking Matt, how come your team hasn't sucked since you got here? Perhaps you could work on that, just like Brian worked on making his team better.
Uh,
but don't you think it's time for a rebuild, Matt?
Yeah. Like now,
You're getting kind of long in the tooth there, man.
team's getting old.
I'm
Team's getting old.
uh,
Actually, they're not. That's the problem. We're wishing Steve was getting old.
hey, Charlie, the sun will set on Charlie Blackman any day now.
Yeah, that's one. Unfortunately, if the rest of your roster doesn't have the same problem. But the problem with our division is, we have build that never rebuilds. We have my team that never rebuilds. Matt seems to be cut from the same cloth as us, that his team's never going to rebuild. And Kevin's team, I think they would have been contenders this year. And he probably looked at the division and said, you know what, maybe I'm better off taking a small step back and get a little younger, hence the trade of Springer a couple of days ago, just to be really ready to make his move probably in a year or two.
Mhm.
The division is just, it's ridiculous. It really is. I talk about this all the time, but it just seems so unfair to have those four teams in one division. But not just me crying, but it
You are crying.
I am.
If we get a regular season again this year, we're gonna have 400 game winners. So
Yeah. Oh, one more quick question since we got you on, Matt. For the 2020 draft, which seemed to be like a real dark spot for a lot of clubs drafting just because there really wasn't, a full college season. Is the 2021 draft going to be any different?
It's the talent, the base talent level is much higher. So this is like if you put it on a scouting scale, where 50 is average. I think the 2021 draft is shaping up to be at least a 60.
Okay.
It's some of the college hitters are not established yet, but as those guys establish themselves this spring, I think we're going to see this draft go down as being one of the better ones in recent years.
Are they going to play a full college season this year?
Yeah, I mean they're making some modifications to the schedule. Some conferences are, but yes, the goal is to get as close as possible to a regular season.
Okay, that's good. That's good then.
Well, Matt, we really appreciate you getting inside with us today here on the Inside Pod. You're welcome back anytime, and we appreciate it very much.
Thanks, guys. Good to talk.
Matt, thanks so much for joining the show today. Really cool insight. We're grateful to have you in the league and to have you around to come on and provide that kind of analysis for what we do here is really cool. So thanks for carving out a few minutes of your time today. And Mike, we are rounding the corner toward the start of the 2021 Major League season. Fingers crossed. We hope, if nothing gets in the way. But right now we're headed that way. So we will see you guys again really soon for a season preview installment of the Inside Pod. And Mike, stay warm up there, buddy.
I'll try my best.